Well, let's talk about Rock and Roll Cowboys. This is one that you claim ownership to and that
Oh
you
yeah, that's
love.
for sure. That's
Okay, cool. So the song starts with kind of that signature Southern rock guitar sound where you have a guitar riff that's harmonized with another guitar. I'm curious, how do you get that sound? You start by playing with one guitar, a main riff, and then going through and figuring out the harmony to play a second guitar. Do you know what I'm
yeah,
talking about? That Southern sound? Yeah.
yeah. It's Dickie Betts stuff, from the Almonds and the Outlaws, and there's all those Southern bands did the two guitar thing. We opened for the Outlaws one time in Atlanta, and they had three guys. It was like, oh my God, they played these incredible harmonies with three guys. Like we were laughing. We said, geez, we have a hard enough time with two of us. But I would do it on the record, and then when we did it live, Terry on the pedal steel would play the other part, right? So it's not that tough. You just start with the one line, and you find the third or the fifth or the sixth, whatever works and sounds melodic.
Yeah, you mentioned Ricky Paquette at the start of the interview. The Sheepdogs, they have a lot of that double and triple guitar that goes back as it's kind of like they're honoring the Southern rock stuff.
Oh man, they remind me so much of Marshall Tucker. And I know it's sincere and it's homage. They're not ripping them off or anything. That's their natural thing. But they do remind me of Marshall Tucker a lot.
I was out at their show at the NAC a few months ago to support Ricky, and
Yeah.
man, they're a great live band. Not only the guitar playing, but again the vocals and the harmonies. So we keep talking about the amazing harmonies, and they keep that part alive as well. The harmonized voices.
Well, a lot of the Southern rock acts. I mean, Marshall Tucker had great harmonies. Even the Almonds too. All of those guys had good harmonies too.
So the song has a great banjo playing, great pedal steel guitar. How talented are Terry King and John Saunders playing on that track?
Well, Terry, there's no Cooper Brothers without Terry. It's that simple. I mean, he really was like a brother, to both my brother and I, and it was he was such a huge part of the band. He would play acoustic, he'd play bass in some songs. He learned the pedal steel, and he approached the pedal steel differently, because he approached it more like a rock guy. So he had all kinds of pedals, and he had distortion and all that stuff, and he would make all kinds of crazy sounds with it. Yeah, he's the guy that probably we miss the most, from the early days. I mean, he left us way too soon, and he was such a big part of the band, vocally and instrumentally. And John saw the banjo player. We had asked a friend of ours, Mike O'Reilly, to play on the record, and he called us and said, "Yeah, no, I heard the song. You need somebody better than me." And he sent that guy. So we literally met him that day, and he played on the record. So we had thought Mike was going to play, Mike was a really good pal of ours. And he says, "No, you need somebody better." So that this guy showed up, and we went, "Oh, okay, this guy is really good."
It's not often you meet a musician that's that honest, right? Oh, you should get someone else. You don't hear that too frequently.
Yeah, it turned out really well. He played a great part in that song.
So let's talk about Show Some Emotion. You've already talked a little bit about it when we talked about the other song. What's funny is you've mentioned the Beach Boys 2 or 3 times now, and I actually had in my notes. So when I listened to that song, I wrote down, has an ethereal sound with the reverb on the vocals, with the sound of the keys, the style of backup vocals, with the strings. It's got kind of an old school Beach Boys vibe. Are you a fan of the Beach Boys? And if so, would you consider them an influence? So I actually had written down Beach Boys when I heard that song.
Well, if you're in a vocal band, the Beach Boys are going to be part of the equation, because they were awesome. We opened for them a couple of years ago at the Kempville Live show, and it's what's left of the Beach Boys. So not maybe what you might want them to be, but they're still cool. But that I had so many people thought that song was the Beach Boys, but it wasn't a conscious thing on our part. It was just like I say, that was more if anything, to get on the radio at that particular moment in time, you wanted to sound like the Bee Gees more than anybody. And so that song with the record company kind of like pointing the gun at my head was more like more like a Bee Gees song.
And in reference to the song title and the lyrics, have you ever been with a woman that just never showed emotion and you didn't know where you stood in the relationship?
No, it was more like I just thought it was kind of a cool line, but it was more this idea of the face you show to the world versus what what's really there. And I think I was just trying to be clever there lyrically, with that title, honestly. Rock and Roll Cowboys, that was us. That was a song about us. It was us. I wrote that song when we were out in Cavendish Beach and we were broke and people looked at us like we were coming into their town to go after their daughters and steal their food. It was like that was a song right from the heart. That's a distinction I guess I'm making between that first and second album.
So the final song we'll dive into from your greatest hits, and then we'll dive into some of the newer music, the three new albums. So Away From You, Dick, this is baby making music. Are you a sucker for a good ballad, or is it just me?
Somebody wrote one time that it was the counter argument to "Love the One You're With." Remember that song? That was big at the time, right around the same time. And somebody said this is like the counter argument to that. It was just being on the road and being homesick. It's basically a song about somebody who's away from their loved one and is trying to cope with it. And Away From You, the stars don't seem to shine as bright. It's just pretty romantic. Yeah, it is baby making, as you say. I guess
there's such a good groove on this song, and one thing that really stood out to me was the drums. So I wrote down the drums are great on this song, whether it's the laid back style that's really in the pocket, the drum fill going into the chorus, or the other little intricate things that he's doing. So do you remember the recording of the drums for this song? Can you share anything about the player or the recording?
Yeah, it was Glenn Bell, the original drummer for the Cooper Brothers, that played on that. He's no longer with us too. He died 3 years ago. But yeah, that was right in his wheelhouse, that song. That was definitely right in his wheelhouse to play. When we did our 40th at Centerpoint, do you know who Peter Fredette is? He plays bass with Kim Mitchell. And he was going to get up with us, and we were trying to decide in advance. We had several guests. Kelly Lee sang "Show Some Emotion," which was
did she show some emotion while she performed that?
Yeah, I almost showed too much emotion. We were singing,
crying during your own concert.
Yeah, exactly. But Peter Fredette insisted on singing Away From You because he loved that song so much, and so he sang it, which was kind of cool, hearing somebody different.
So going into the chorus, there's kind of this drum fill that happens, and there's this very unique kind of tom sound where it sounds like metallic, or there's something. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm just wondering if he used like a unique drum kit or unique toms.
I don't know. It's been so long.
Okay.
I'm not really a drum guy, so
yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the fill sounded.
There's a big setup to the chorus.
Yeah. The fill. There's something about the actual sound of the toms that, to me, it jumped out. Like the snare sounded like a normal snare, but it sounded like as he got up to the toms, it sounded different than other toms to me. So
that would probably be Mike Jones, the engineer, man. He was so good with the drums. And yeah, he had a different kind of background coming from England and stuff like that. So he maybe that's why it sounded a little different.
So one thing that jumps out as I listen to your entire discography is that you guys know how to write great choruses. It's like you're consistent across all your songs, that when it gets to the chorus, there's always a great payoff. And I think that's probably very hard to do.